Good evening, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the ceremonial induction of the 83rd General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, the premier organization of scientists in Sri Lanka. As you can hear, the chief guest has just arrived, and the ceremonial procession will be headed this way in just a few minutes. I kindly request all guests to please rise as the procession enters the hall. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the traditional lighting of the oil lamp will take place. And I have the pleasure of inviting the following distinguished persons for this purpose. Our chief guest today, Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa, a former General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. Our guest of honor today, Dr. Sujatha Hevage, former head of the Department of Chemistry of the University of Colombo. Professor Ramani D. Vijayasekara, General President of Slaas for the year 2024. Professor Ranjit Senaratna, outgoing General President of Slaas. Professor Udeni Navagamua, General President-elect of Slaas. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Professor H.D. Karunaratna. The Secretary General of the UNESCO Sri Lankan Commission, Professor Sirimali Fernando. The General Secretaries of Slaas, Dr. Russell De Silva and Dr. Lakmal Veeravarna, followed by the Treasurer of Slaas, Professor Dilrukshi Vijayaratna. Thank you very much, and may I please request you to remain standing. I would like to invite the following distinguished persons to please take their seats at the head table. The chief guest, Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa. Guest of honor, Dr. Sujatha Hevage. General President, Professor Ramani Vijayasekara. Outgoing General President, Professor Ranjit Senaratna. General President-elect, Professor Udeni Navagamua, and the two General Secretaries of Slaas, Dr. Russell De Silva and Dr. Lakmal Veeravarna. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to begin the day's proceedings, let's pay our respects to our motherland.
Sundara Siri Balini
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. And now, to formally deliver the welcome address, I would like to invite Professor Ranjit Senaratne, the outgoing General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. He's also the chairperson of the National Science Foundation. And just last month, Slaas celebrated 79 glorious years of promoting and advancing science in the country under his leadership. I now call upon Professor Senaratne to welcome you.
Good evening. Chief guest of this momentous occasion, Dr. Lalani Rajapaksa, past General President of Slaas 2010. Guest of honor, Dr. Sujata Hewage, former Head Department of Chemistry, University of Colombo. Professor Ramani D. Vijayasekara, General President 2024. Members of the Slaas Council and past General Presidents, representatives of the Slaas chapters, and members of the Slaas, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. As the outgoing General President of the Slaas, I rise before this august assembly to fulfill an onerous task in keeping with the hallowed traditions of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. Founded in 1944, the Slaas has been at the apex of the scientific edifice of the country and as a premier national institution of scientists representing all disciplines. It has made a signal contribution to the advancement and dissemination of knowledge in the country. Since this great institution was founded, it has had 82 general presidents, including 9 female presidents, and Professor Ramani Vijayasekara will be the 83rd general president and the 10th woman president of the Slaas. Professor Vijayasekara's contribution in the spheres of education, science and research have been remarkable, and her outstanding caliber, intellectual integrity and passionate commitment to science will undoubtedly afford a new dimension, direction and momentum to the Slaas, propelling it to a new height. Distinguished audience is eagerly awaiting to listen to the General President and to learn more about new ideas, novel perspectives, and dreams. I mean, not that one sees in sleep, but those that do not let her sleep, and how she would charter a new course and blaze a new trail, taking this institution to greater heights in keeping with her vision and national needs and challenges. Therefore, I wish to get down to my prime task now. First and foremost, I wish to extend a most warm and cordial welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa, former General President of the Slaas and former Professor in Community Medicine, University of Colombo, and Dr. Sujata Hevage, former Head, Department of Chemistry, University of Colombo. Professor Ramani Vijaysekhar, you as a member of the Slaas since 1992 and is General President-elect in 2023, have acted with great dedication and devotion to advance the mission and interest of the Slaas, and you will be the General President of the Slaas in 2024. I welcome you most heartily and warmly on this occasion. Present on this occasion are distinguished invitees, past General Presidents, Council members of the Slaas, including General President-elect, General Secretaries, Treasurer, Editor, Chairperson of Statutory Committees, Chapter Representatives, and valued members of the Slaas. They are too numerous to be individually welcomed. I receive all of them with open arms. And finally, I wish the endeavors of Professor Ramani Vijaysekhar be crowned with success. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my next pleasant task is to introduce to you our guest of honor, who in turn will introduce the incumbent General President of Slaas. Dr. Sujata Hevage is a proud product of the University of Ceylon, Colombo. Her long, illustrious career as an academic began at the Department of Chemistry, University of Colombo, where she later served as the head of the department. She has also held leadership roles of president and dean at the Institute of Chemistry, Ceylon. In recognition of her invaluable service to the Institute of Chemistry, Ceylon, she was awarded the Distinguished Service Award. Being an active member of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, Dr. Hevage has held the position of the President of Section E2. At present, Dr. Sujata Hevage holds the post of Project Director of the Sri Lanka Pharmaceutical Laboratory of the Department of Chemistry, University of Colombo. I humbly call upon Dr. Sujata Hevage to introduce to you the 83rd General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction. Chief guest, Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa, President-elect, Professor Ramani Vijaysekhar, other members of the head table, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased and honored to have been invited as the guest of honor at this induction ceremony of the General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. It is a great honor for me to address this esteemed gathering at this momentous occasion. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the newly elected General President of Slaas, Professor Ramani-Devika-Vijayasekaran. Your appointment to this esteemed position is a testament to your outstanding achievements and contributions over a span of many years to the Slaas activities and to the field of science. I have no doubt, under your guidance, the Slaas activities will reach new heights of excellence and make significant contribution to the advancement of its activities. I have known Ramani over 40 years, first as finally an undergraduate student, then a colleague, head of the Department of Chemistry, and as a close friend. She is gentle with a pleasant personality, very friendly, and gets on well with everybody around her very easily. Well organized and immaculately dressed to suit the occasion, she is a role model to her students, young staff members, and other academic and non-academic staff members. She is loved and respected by all the members in the Department of Chemistry and other departments in the faculty. She spent a year of, Her primary and secondary education was at Visakha Vidyalaya, Colombo, which provided her with a conducive environment to grow up, gaining much from her friends and teachers. As a hobby, she played violin and took part in the Junior Symphony Orchestra at first, and later the Philharmonic Orchestra of Sri Lanka during her teenage years. She is a connoisseur of classical music. Time permitting, she makes it a point to attend almost all the classical music concerts in Colombo without fail. After her A-levels, she gained admission to the Faculty of Science, University of Colombo. She performed excellently in the first year exams, gaining the position of batch top, best in the batch, and receiving the scholarship awarded to the best student in the bioscience stream. She was in the group of students selected to do a BSc special degree in chemistry, and after 4 years of studies, she received first-class honors in chemistry in 1983, and again achieving the position of batch top, best in the batch. Her achievements were far superior to the second in line. Results of her final year research project entitled Studies on Metal-Ion Interaction with Penicillin and Tetracycline was presented at the 39th annual sessions of the Slaas in 1983. She was recruited as a probationary lecturer to the Department of Chemistry and proceeded to follow her postgraduate studies in chemistry at the Australian National University. She read for a PhD degree in chemistry, specializing in bioinorganic chemistry, and obtained PhD in 1990 for the thesis entitled Coordinated Phosphate Reactivity, where she studied the role of metal ions in activating biologically important phosphate derivatives. She spent a year of her sabbatical leave as a research fellow at the University of Birmingham, UK from 2001 to 2002, on a Commonwealth Scholar Fellowship and at the University of Durham, UK, as a visiting scientist in 2003, receiving an ADB grant. After sabbatical, her research work was more oriented towards environmental chemistry, concentrating on evaluating persistent organic pollutants such as polybrominated diphenyl ethers present in the environment. She was the head of the Department of Chemistry for 6 years, from 2014 to 2020. This position entails huge load of work involving academic and non-academic activities, attending many meetings in the faculty and the Senate, and other high-level meetings represent the university. Despite all her academic and administrative commitments, Ramani places a heavy emphasis on research. Her research work spans across many fields, from investigating the role of metal ions in activating biologically important compounds to investigating levels of accumulation of various pollutants in biotic constituents of the environment. Much of the research work is therefore multidisciplinary in nature and is conducted collaboratively with other academics in the Department of Chemistry and with researchers in other departments in the faculty. She has a good rapport with many such members in the department and the faculty. This work has resulted in joint publications in high-ranking peer-reviewed journals. She trained many undergraduate and postgraduate research students, at least 3 students per year since 1990. She received many research grants and equipment grants to continue her research. Among them, I highlight a few. NRC grant for pesticide analysis, CARP grant for hydroponic studies, NARESA and University of Colombo grants for metal ion and pesticide analysis, and Canada Fund grant to purchase a gas chromatograph. Ramani has 2 patents in hydroponics. She received Sustrid Award for the supervision of an MPhil student on hydroponics, NRC Merit Award for scientific publication, Presidential Award for scientific research for 3 consecutive years from 2004 to 2006. She has written several books, book chapters, monographs, and has assisted as an editor of several publications of Slaas and ICMC and many other organizations. As an academic, one factor that lifts her above others in her impeccable knowledge of English. This year, she took a major role in writing the 100 years history of the Faculty of Science of the University of Colombo. The book written by Ramani and her colleagues of the science faculty was presented on 21st December to an invited audience, and Ramani was the presenter of the reflections on the book, An Odyssey Through a Century. Ramani is an excellent lecturer in her field of chemistry, covering metal complexes, bioinorganic chemistry, biochemistry, and environmental chemistry. Her lectures are appreciated by the undergraduates and postgraduate students alike. To highlight her teaching ability, my personal experience with one of our assistant lecturers is presented. He is Namal. Before giving a reference for postgraduate studies, I inquired about his proposed field of study. He replied, After listening to Madam Ramani's lectures on metal complexes, which I really enjoyed, I decided this should be my field for postgraduate research. He joined University of Texas, A&M, and did his research under a world-renowned inorganic chemist, Professor F.A. Cotton. This is one example over many years of lecturing how Ramani would have groomed the students to face challenges in their future activities. Ramani's contribution to the Institute of Chemistry Ceylon, ICHEMC, are substantial and praiseworthy. She is a life member of ICHEMC and a council member since 2005. She was invited to take up the position of Dean of the College of Chemical Sciences for a year in 2021, and she looked after and contributed to the academic and administrative activities of the CCS. She chaired the academic board meetings as a dean and organized a convocation for the year 2021 and contributed much to the teaching and research activities of ICHEMC. She wrote SOPs detailing the conduct of examination at ICHEMC. She has held many other positions at the Institute. To highlight a few, she was the Honorary Joint Secretary of the Council for 2 years in 2009 and 2010, Secretary International Relations since 2012, member of many committees, including Monograph Committee, Editorial and Publicity Committee, Awards Committee, Training, Seminars and Workshop Committees, and much more. One of many organizations to which Ramani is a contributor, the one she enjoys most is the Slaas. She joined the Slaas in 1994 and is a life member and has been a council member from 2009. She was elected President Section E2 in Chemical Sciences in 2009 and delivered the presidential address entitled Polybrominated Diphenyl Ethers, the PCBs of the 21st century, to a well-attended audience. As the president of E2, she organized seminars in chemistry for advanced level students in many districts. She has been serving in almost all the committees at Slaas, too many to summarize. However, I wish to highlight a few of the more important ones. In 2020, she functioned as the Vice Chairperson, Board of Trustees, after serving as a member for 3 years. She served as a Secretary, Ethics Committee in 2011 and 2010, being a member since 2003. She assisted in drafting 2 documents, Code of Conduct for Slaas members and procedures with respect to ethical transgressions. She played a major role in organizing the Professor S.R. Kottagoda oration for several years. Ramani also assisted in conducting 2 seminars on religion, science and ethics and development. She served as the editor of Slaas, the Secretary International Relations for several years. She has been serving in several other committees of Slaas, Science Education Committee, Annual Sections Committee, House and Finance Committee, Membership Committee, Environment Committee, and Committee for Popularization of Science. Ramani has been working in almost all the committees established at Slaas. She therefore has an in-depth knowledge on the activities of Slaas, and I believe she will do her best to assist the sectional members to upgrade their activities. I congratulate Ramani once again for being elected to this exalted position. In a year where the country is facing many problems, including economic ones, I believe that Ramani will prove to be a dynamic leader who will guide Slaas through a successful program of activities and help it achieve financial stability. I wish Ramani all the very best in implementing her planned schedule of work for 2024. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the highlight of today. You're about to witness the induction of the 83rd General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. It is my pleasure to invite the outgoing General President, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, and the incoming General President, Professor Ramani Vijayasekara, for this purpose.
General President's Pledge. Professor Ramani Vijayasekara, the General Committee of the Association, at its last annual meeting, elected you to the prestigious post of General President, as you are worthy of holding this post. The Association's constitution spells out clearly the functions and responsibilities of the post. As the General President, your ruling shall be final on all matters and points of order that may arise. However, there are also unwritten laws that you are required to follow. You are the General President for 1 year, but will be past General President for life. You have to uphold the dignity and decorum of the post at all times. As a scientist and a member of the civil society, you may have commitments in other organizations, but in all such instances, it's your duty to bear in mind the interest and welfare of the association. You are the steward of this country's premier body of scientists, and as such, your performance and achievements will be watched not only by the general membership of the association, but also by the public at large. They will hold you accountable for both the achievements as well as the failures. What you achieve will go into the annals of history of the association. Professor Ramani Vijayasekara, I am confident that you will perform your duties to the best of your ability in the interest of the association.
I, Professor Ramani Vijayasekara, pledge that I will uphold the dignity of the office and fulfill my duties as the General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science for the year 2024 to the best of my ability and in the interest of the association.
Thank you very much. And we just saw this huge responsibility being passed over. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure and a privilege to call upon the freshly minted General President, Professor Ramani D. Vijayasekara, to deliver her address, where she would lay out her vision for Slaas and detail her plans to spearhead Slaas for the year 2024.
Thank you, Teshini. Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa, our chief guest, Dr. Sujata Hevage, guest of honor, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, immediate past General President of SLAS, past General Presidents, special invitees, council members and members of SLAS, family and friends. I feel privileged and happy to take on the leadership of the SLAS for 2024. And I thank the general membership of SLAS for the confidence placed in me. My sincere thanks to the Council of 2022 for electing me to this prestigious post. I thought I would begin by inviting you to a journey back in time through some historical scientific discoveries that profoundly transformed our world and continue to impact our lives to this day. These were due to the remarkable power of observation and logical deduction of certain individuals. Their perseverance, passion for science, and genuine desire to do something for the betterment of mankind led to these extraordinary advancements. I have selected examples from a few key sectors. I will start by talking about the pivotal breakthroughs in the health sector, the discovery of vaccines and antibiotics. Smallpox was the leading cause of death in the 18th century. Compared to smallpox, cowpox is a relatively harmless disease that is contracted from cattle. In 1796, Edward Jenner, who was a physician, noted that a dairymaid who suffered an attack of cowpox did not contract smallpox even after being exposed to smallpox. He tested this observation by inoculating individuals with cowpox matter and demonstrating that it gave protection against smallpox. He continued the experiments, this time directly inoculating a person with smallpox matter, and showed that smallpox development in him could be prevented. This established the concept of acquired immunity, that is, exposure to a harmless form of a pathogen stimulates the immune system to recognize and fight off future infections. Jenner's discovery in 1796 led to the development of vaccines, providing prevention against numerous infectious diseases and laying the groundwork for immunization programs worldwide. Jenner's work shifted the focus of medicine from primarily treating diseases to preventing them, leading to the development of vaccines for other diseases. Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin is another historic milestone in medicine. It's a story that involves a combination of serendipity, scientific curiosity, and keen observation that heralded the dawn of the antibiotic age. Fleming researched on bacterial infections with particular interest in finding a substance that could kill harmful bacteria without harming human cells. In 1928, on returning to his laboratory after a vacation, he noticed that one of his bacterial culture plates was contaminated with mold. He noted that the bacteria surrounding the mold had died. He hypothesized that the mold was producing a substance that could effectively kill bacteria. He named the substance penicillin. It was the first antibiotic to be discovered. This was one of the most significant medical discoveries of the 20th century and laid the foundation for development of other antibiotics. Subsequently, Howard Florey and Ernst Chain and their team at University of Oxford turned penicillin from a lab curiosity into a life-saving drug. To obtain purified penicillin, they grew the fungus Penicillium in culture vessels. Thereafter, a team of penicillin girls were employed to grow the fungus Penicillium and extract a few milligrams of penicillin from it. The demand for penicillin rocketed due to the Second World War and served as the main impetus for mass production of the drug. The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine 1945 was awarded jointly to Fleming, Chain, and Florey. Fleming and Jenner pursued different paths within the sphere of medicine, but their collective impact is immeasurable. Jenner's was in the prevention of disease, while Fleming's work related to disease treatment. Another significant transformation of medical care owes a great debt to Marie Curie for her pioneering contribution to radiation therapy. Marie Curie was raised in Poland during the Russian occupation. Science thrilled her, and she traveled to Paris and enrolled at Sorbonne University. She cleaned glassware in university labs to support her education. In 1893, she earned a degree in physics and another in mathematics the following year. At this time, scientists were struggling to make sense of many surprising phenomena, such as Henry Becquerel's observation that high energy rays were emitted spontaneously from uranium salts. Marie Curie postulated a daring hypothesis that the rays emitted seemed to arise spontaneously from uranium itself. Her theory had radical implications, as at the time, the atom was thought to be a stable particle that could not be divided further. Fascinated by her work, in mid-1898, her husband Pierre Curie, a physicist, decided to join her to work on pitchblende, a highly radioactive ore, to isolate and study the properties of uranium and thorium. Marie Curie was puzzled that the radiation emitted by these two elements was greater than expected, based on the amounts of the two elements in her samples. She concluded that there must be some unknown substance which was very active in the ore. In 1898, she identified one of the substances and named it polonium, after her homeland. 5 months later, she identified the second element, radium. Marie and Pierre discovered that radium destroyed disease cells faster than healthy cells, and that radiation could be used to treat tumors. Marie Curie's discovery of the two radioactive elements, polonium and radium, laid the foundation for modern radiation therapy. At the time, science was a man's world, so it was rare for women to be involved in scientific study. For her research in radiation phenomena, Marie Curie became, in 1903, the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize. French academics originally proposed only her husband and Henri Becquerel, but Pierre insisted that his wife shared the honor. In 1911, she received a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry, in recognition of her work on radioactivity. In spite of her achievements, she was not given membership in the French Academy of Sciences since she was a woman. She became a heroine in World War I. She saw a need for X-ray machines in the battlefields and invented a mobile X-ray unit called a Little Curie. Together with her team of trained women, she operated these units in the battlefront. It is estimated that over 1 million wounded soldiers received X-ray examinations during the war. Marie Curie's groundbreaking achievements shattered gender barriers in science and inspired generations of women to pursue scientific careers. Our understanding of the fundamentals of heredity came with Mendel's discovery. Mendel was keenly interested in mathematics and physics. He became a monk in part because it enabled him to obtain an education without having to pay for it. He was given the name Gregor when he joined the order of St. Augustine. Mendel began his studies on heredity at St. Thomas's Abbey using mice. However, as his bishop did not like one of his friars studying animal sex, Mendel switched to plants. He studied variation in pea plants in the 5-acre experimental garden in his monastery. His experiments, conducted between 1856 and 1863, established the rules of heredity, now referred to as the laws of Mendelian inheritance. Mendel's approach to experimentation came from his training in physics and mathematics, especially combinatorial mathematics. He learned the quantitative evaluation of experiments from the famous physicist Christian Doppler. Mendel presented his paper at 2 meetings of the National History Society of Brno, Moravia, in 1865. About 40 scientists who listened to Mendel's 2 groundbreaking lectures failed to understand his work. When his paper was published in 1866, it had little impact and was cited only about 3 times over the next 35 years. The paper that was criticized at the time is now considered a seminal work. Nearly 100 years later, another historical milestone was achieved with the unraveling of the structure of the hereditary molecule DNA by Watson and Crick, the molecule that rocked the world. Watson and Crick recognized at an early stage in their careers that gaining a detailed knowledge of the 3-dimensional configuration of the DNA molecule was central to understanding the molecular basis of inheritance. Other researchers had made important findings about the composition of DNA. Alexander Todd had determined that the backbone of the DNA molecule contained a repeating phosphate and deoxyribose sugar groups. Chargaff discovered the complementarity of base pairing. Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin had obtained high-resolution X-ray images of DNA fibers that suggested a helical shape. Linus Pauling had recently discovered the single-stranded alpha helix, the structure found in many proteins, prompting biologists to think of helical forms. Watson and Crick, as well as Pauling, initially proposed a 3-stranded helical structure for the DNA molecule. After several failed attempts at model building, they achieved their breakthrough. A visiting physical scientist from the United States pointed out that the configuration of the rings of thymine and guanine given in most textbooks of chemistry was incorrect. After this, they put the two bases into their correct form in the cardboard model. With the resulting two-stranded structure, all the pieces of the puzzle fitted together. And finally, in 1953, the structure of DNA was established. Franklin's image 51 was the key to resolving the structure. Watson and Crick published their findings with the understated title, A Structure for Deoxyribose Nucleic Acid, in a one-page paper in the British Scientific Weekly, Nature. Crick's wife, Odile, drew a schematic drawing of the double helix. A coin toss decided the order in which they were named as author. This discovery exemplifies the power of scientific collaboration, which has become a cornerstone of scientific progress. In 1962, Crick, Watson, and Wilkins were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. Unfortunately, by then, Franklin had died, and Nobel Prizes are not awarded posthumously. Mendel's work on inheritance and Watson and Crick's discovery of the structure of DNA had a profound impact on society, leading to transformative changes in various fields. It revolutionized our understanding of genetics and biology and led to the advancements in medicine, forensic science, agriculture, and biotechnology. The basic principles of inheritance were taken to a practical level by Norman Borlaug in the 1960s, who developed higher-yielding wheat varieties. Borlaug was known as the father of the Green Revolution, which resulted in increased production of food grains, particularly wheat and rice. His work in developing countries, especially in the Indian subcontinent, is estimated to have saved millions of people from starvation and death. For his humanitarian work, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970. In the mid-1990s, plant breeding took another quantum leap with the emergence of genetic engineering technologies. The first genetically modified crop released was Bt corn in 1996, which carried a bacterial gene that produced a toxin harmful to the pest, the corn borer. In the last few years, gene editing, a more targeted way of developing new traits in crops and animals, has emerged, allowing scientists to turn genes that already exist within a given organism on or off, rather than inserting genes from an outside source. Let me move from medicine and biology to communication, the foundation of human interaction. Alexander Graham Bell's groundbreaking work was the beginning of the modern telecommunication sector. Bell was a problem solver from an early age. He was deeply affected by his mother's gradual deafness, which began when he was 12 years, which led him to study acoustics. Bell's focus was on telegraphy, the method of distant communication at the time. He began researching on methods to transmit several telegraph messages simultaneously over a single wire. The basic concept behind this was that messages could be sent through a single wire if each message was transmitted at a different pitch. While experimenting with his harmonic telegraph, Bell and his co-worker Thomas Watson, an experienced electrical designer and mechanic, discovered by accident that not only dots and dashes, but also sound could be transmitted over a wire. Watson was trying to loosen a reed that had been wound around a transmitter when he plucked it by accident. The vibration produced by Watson's act traveled along the wire into a second device in the other room, where Bell was working. The twang Bell heard inspired them to accelerate their work. In late 1875, Bell and Watson came up with a simple receiver that turned electricity into sound. And on March 7th, 1876, Bell was granted his telephone patent. A few days later, he made the first telephone call to his co-worker, Thomas Watson, with the now famous phrase, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." Apart from being a great inventor, Bell was a teacher of speech for the deaf. Throughout his lifetime, Bell sought to integrate the deaf with the hearing world. While teaching, he met Mabel, a deaf student who later became his wife. During Bell's funeral, every phone in North America was silenced to pay tribute to the inventor. The modern telecommunication technologies, which allow distant communication beyond borders, are built upon the principles and innovations introduced by Bell's groundbreaking invention. With regard to the development of transportation, trains and motor cars as a means of travel transformed travel on land. The first steam-powered locomotive, known as Locomotion Number 1, was built by George Stephenson. It operated on the Stockton-Darlington Railway in northeastern England, considered the world's first public railway line. It was inaugurated in 1825, covering a distance of about 25 kilometers, carrying both coal and passengers. This railway line was a significant milestone in transportation history, enabling faster and more efficient movement of goods and people. Subsequent development of rail transport played a crucial role in facilitating the Industrial Revolution. Today, improved technology has enabled the development of high-speed trains that reduce travel time over long distances. Thereby, economic growth, urbanization, and development of trade and commerce has been rapidly advanced and enhanced. The motor wagon or motor car, invented by Carl Benz in 1886, is widely regarded as the world's first automobile. It was a three-wheeled automobile powered by a gasoline engine. The motor car brought about a societal transformation by replacing horse-drawn carriages by a more convenient and efficient means of mobility. The impact of the motor car extended beyond transportation. It brought about the growth of the petroleum industry as gasoline became the main fuel for combustion engine, created new industries and job opportunities related to manufacturing, automotive services, and infrastructure development, such as roads. It marked the beginning of a new era of personal transport and the evolution of the automobile industry. The 20th century saw the beginning of another mode of transport. The story of aviation began when Orville and Wilbur Wright's father had brought them a small, rubber band-powered flying toy from his travels. The brothers were fascinated with flight and experimented with kites of various designs. Having obtained a deep understanding of aeronautics by reading extensively, they designed the Wright glider in 1900. Realizing the importance of wings in flight, they constructed a small wind tunnel to measure the forces operating on model wings of different shapes. Fast forwarding to 1903, history was created. In 1903, Orville Wright made the first successful flight, covering 36 meters through the air in 12 seconds. For the first time, a heavier-than-air machine demonstrated power and sustained flight under complete control of the pilot. The inaugural flight was a modest one, but it marked a milestone in history and opened the door to modern aviation. We now have supersonic jets that fly faster than the speed of sound and crewed missions to the moon and Mars. Space tourism and private space travel are also planned by commercial space industry, transforming our options for travel in outer space in the years to come. The few discoveries I talked about highlight how scientific knowledge and advancements across various sectors have brought about significant societal transformations, positively impacting areas such as health, agriculture, communication, and transportation. Let me now bring you to the new millennium. While science has provided solutions to many problems, its applications, sometimes indiscriminately, have created new ones. I see the following as some of the most challenging global issues at present. Climate change is one of the most talked about topics today. Its repercussions manifest in the form of extreme weather events, such as rising temperature and changes in rainfall patterns, resulting in melting of ice caps, rising sea levels, floods, drought, loss of biodiversity, scarcity of food and water resources, and adverse impacts on public health. Greenhouse gas emissions are the largest contributor to climate change. The most significant source of these emissions is the burning of fossil fuels for energy, industrial processes, and transportation. One of the key transitions we must undergo to avert climate change is to decarbonize our energy production. At present, about 60% of global electricity is produced by coal and gas-fired power stations. Some developed countries use nuclear energy as an alternative energy source. Some countries supplement their energy requirement from renewable energy sources such as solar and wind. But the transition will also require a change in how energy supply operates. Fossil fuels provide generation on tap. For renewable sources, we can't call upon wind or sun as and when required. Therefore, energy systems must change from producing energy on demand to capturing and storing it. This is basically battery storage. At present, the lithium-ion battery is the workhorse. The global production of lithium topped 100,000 tons in 2021, and more than 80% of that ended up in batteries for electric cars. Just as fossil fuels did in the 20th century, the demand for lithium is now reshaping the geopolitical landscape. The lithium-ion battery is unlikely to deliver grid-scale, long-term storage. Further, since the focus of battery design until recently was to improve performance, dealing with battery manufacturing waste and recycling technologies have taken a back seat. This needs to change, as our clean energy infrastructure mustn't come with hidden costs, such as adverse effects on the environment. Redox flow batteries are also very much on the scene, as are batteries using hybrid technology. Theoretically, the ultimate high energy density battery technologies are metal air. This is the only energy storage comparable with gasoline. We look to science to develop new battery technologies to meet the rising demand for sustainable, safe, and efficient energy storage solutions on a large scale. Great if they are cheap as well. Another major problem associated with technical advancement is e-waste disposal and management. E-waste is a major environmental pollutant of the 21st century. According to the UN report of 2019, the world produces as much as 50 million tons of electronic and electric waste, e-waste, a year. The total amount of electric and electronic equipment the world uses is estimated to grow by 2.5 million metric tons per year. This makes it the world's fastest growing domestic waste stream, with more and more people buying electronic products with shorter life cycles and fewer options for repair. Less than 20% of e-waste is formally recycled, with 80% either ending up in landfills or being informally recycled, much of it by hand in developing countries, exposing workers to hazardous and carcinogenic substances such as mercury, lead, cadmium, and brominated flame retardants. Once in a landfill, these toxic materials seep out into the environment, contaminating land, water, and the air. For example, mercury is used in computer monitors and fluorescent lighting. It is estimated that about 50 metric tons of mercury are contained in these undocumented flows of e-waste that end up in the environment each year. Most of the e-waste shipped out to the EU, estimated to be between 250,000 tons and 1.3 million tons, ends up in West Africa and Asia. Aside from toxins, e-waste also contains precious metals and useful raw materials, such as gold, silver, copper, and platinum. The total value of all this discarded as e-waste in 2019 has been conservatively valued at US dollars 57 billion, a sum greater than the GDP of most countries. To give you more numbers, as much as 7% of the world's gold may currently be contained in e-waste, with 100 times more gold in a ton of e-waste than in a ton of gold ore. Extracting precious metals from e-waste would help to conserve the naturally occurring deposits of these metals. The world is slowly waking up to the scale of the e-waste problem. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals also include targets related to e-waste management. The e-waste recycling industry presents a significant opportunity for companies to not only make a positive impact on the environment, but also to benefit financially from the valuable materials contained in these products. Plastic has created another major environmental challenge. The global production of plastics has increased explosively, with more than half the total amount of plastics being produced after 2000. More than half the 9.2 billion tons of plastic that has been produced up to now, about 5 billion tons have ended up as waste in landfills, or has simply ended up in the environment. Between 5 and 14 million tons of plastic enter the oceans, creating what is known as the plastic soup. The issue of plastic pollution was the focus of the 2023 World Environment Day, highlighting the magnitude of the problem. Plastic takes decades and decades to degrade. Instead, it fragments into smaller pieces when exposed to sunlight, heat, and mechanical forces, until it cannot be seen with the naked eye. These minute pieces, which are called microplastics, are 0.001 to 5 millimeters in size. Marine and freshwater environments are contaminated by microplastics directly, as well as transport of particles through wind, runoff, wastewater, and waste disposal. Microplastics are also formed as a result of the wear and tear of products, such as tire abrasions arising from road transport, from the peeling and flaking of paints and coatings, and during the washing of synthetic textiles. Plastics, including polyester, acrylic, and nylon, comprise approximately 60% of all clothing material. A study by OECD in 2020 indicates that up to 65% of microplastics may be emitted during the drying and wearing of garments. It is estimated that globally, 16 to 35%, that is between 200,000 and 500,000 tons of microplastics from textiles enter the global marine environment each year. On the other hand, some microplastics are intentionally added to products such as toiletries and cosmetics to provide the required texture. They can be absorbed into the skin, or in the case of products like lipstick or lip balm, directly ingested. Microplastics are also a component of most cigarette filters. Marine ecosystems are polluted when cigarette butts, which are the most common plastic litter on beaches, break down and release microplastics. The majority of microplastics removed from wastewater end up in sewage sludge, which is often used as an agricultural fertilizer. Recent research shows that microplastics are absorbed by vegetables and fruit, and thus end up on our plates. Microplastics have been found in various human organs, including the placenta of newborn babies, which could result in serious health impacts. UNEP's Clean Seas campaign is the biggest, most powerful global coalition devoted to ending marine plastic pollution. Individuals can also take the Clean Seas pledge to reduce their plastic footprint. These initiatives would be a big step in making the changes necessary to reduce the impacts of plastics and microplastics on environmental and human health. I don't need to remind you of the catastrophe we faced with the Express Pearl disaster and its long-term impact on our shores. Although the knowledge base is evolving quickly, the formation of microplastics and mechanisms for their release, and the effects of microplastics on the environment and human health are complex, and there are still many unknowns. This is an area where science can provide solutions. In the health sector, the emergence of new infectious diseases and the re-emergence of existing ones is an ongoing threat. Managing outbreaks and preventing their spread is a constant challenge. As I mentioned earlier, antibiotics are one of science's greatest contributions to humanity. Life would be very different without antibiotics. Yet, the resistant bacterial stains caused by overusing and misusing antibiotics means that a post-antibiotic era is now a realistic prospect. The problem is now so severe that according to the WHO, antimicrobial resistance could be the leading cause of deaths worldwide by 2050. Attention has focused on new approaches that do not involve the traditional antibiotics. For example, using bacteriophages to infect and kill bacteria has gained interest as a potential alternative to antibiotics, especially for antibiotic-resistant infections. The most recent approach has been to leverage the CRISPR-Cas systems. While not antibiotics in the traditional sense, CRISPR-Cas systems, simply said, can be used to resensitize drug-resistant bacteria to antibiotics by specifically eliminating the plasmids carrying the antibiotic resistance genes. This groundbreaking development, for which the 2020 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to Carpentier and Doudna, gives us a new molecular weapon in the fight against infections. With regard to vaccines, while traditional vaccines are safe and effective against specific diseases, sudden, unexpected viral diseases could catch us off guard, like in the COVID-19 pandemic, where an effective therapeutic vaccine was needed to be produced in a short space of time. The recently developed technologies, such as the development of mRNA and DNA vaccines, are able to address the unmet medical needs for novel pathogens, for which rapid development is critical. The 2023 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded to Carrico and Weissman for their discoveries concerning nucleoside-based modifications that enabled the development of effective mRNA vaccines against COVID-19. Finally, the current buzzword, artificial intelligence, AI, referred to as the fourth industrial revolution. AI has witnessed unprecedented growth and innovation in recent years, impacting virtually all sectors. For example, in the health sector, AI has been applied to medical image analysis, drug discovery, and patient diagnosis. AI is being used in agriculture for crop monitoring and optimization, in environmental science for climate modeling, and in energy for grid optimization. Robotics and automation are being used to improve the efficiency and safety of e-waste processing. AI in transport has resulted in groundbreaking innovations, including driverless vehicles. AI's creative potential has also expanded into art, music, and literature. In fact, now the world's very first AI-generated art gallery, called the Dead End Gallery, opened in Amsterdam in March 2023. As these advancements continue to shape our world, we can see that AI is a dynamic field with limitless potential. In the coming years, we can expect AI to further integrate into our lives. While AI has been transformative, it also raises another set of challenges, such as unemployment, need for retraining and reskilling the workforce, privacy concerns, security risks, and a multitude of ethical dilemmas. The question is, are we ready to make the necessary adaptations and face these challenges? In this regard, we need well-thought-out policies to harness the maximum benefits of AI while mitigating potential harmful effects. SLAs can make a positive contribution to many scientific challenges that we face, especially the ones I have highlighted in the second half of my presentation, through its 8 dynamic sections, statutory and non-statutory committees, and special committees. With its wide reach, SLAS is also ideally placed to popularize science, particularly among children, our future, and to nurture their interest in the discipline. As the foremost scientific organization in our nation, SLAs could also play a central role in bringing together the relevant stakeholders to address any emerging issues. I believe that as SLAs, we could play a significant role in making a difference. With this in mind, I present to you the theme for 2024, Harnessing the Power of Sciences for Societal Transformation. I would like to acknowledge the following: my school, FOSMedia.Videos, and my wonderful teachers for giving me a great start, the Department of Chemistry and the University of Colombo for providing the opportunity to develop my career path, as well as the opportunity to guide and nurture young scientists, my parents for their unconditional love and support, my brother and sister-in-law for being my strength, my two nephews, what can I say about these two? My precious horrors. My cousin Rahal for his generosity, and my friends for being my extended family. I have for you a final slide of people who are very precious to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. And on behalf of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, let me take this opportunity to wish you the very best as you embark on this ambitious journey. We are with you. Ladies and gentlemen, my next pleasant task is to introduce the chief guest, Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa, who is no stranger to Slaas. Dr. Lalini Rajapaksa is a distinguished past General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. She was a former professor and head of the Department of Community Medicine, Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo. She has also been a president of the College of Community Physicians of Sri Lanka and the chairperson of the Board of Study in Community Medicine, Postgraduate Institute of Medicine. Dr. Rajapaksa has served Slaas in numerous capacities since 1985. I now call upon Dr. Rajapaksa to deliver her address at the ceremonial induction of the 83rd General President of Slaas.
Professor Ramani Vijayasekara, the newly inducted 83rd General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, Dr. Sujata Hevage, Guest of Honor and former Head of Department of Chemistry, University of Colombo, Professor Anjit Senaratna, immediate past President, President-elect, Professor Udeni Navagamu, past General Presidents, distinguished invitees, and members of the Association. Professor Ramani Vijayasekara's induction today as the 83rd General President of the Association is a culmination of a long process of selection, and election by her seniors, peers, and the general body of the association. It is a recognition of her commitment to science in the country, an honor she richly deserves. Congratulations, Ramani, and I wish you a very successful year. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this important and joyous occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, the forerunner of this organization, the Ceylon Association of Science, was formed in 1944, prior to independence, with the objective of bringing together professionals working in all fields of science. Later in 1966, it was renamed as the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. Throughout its existence, the primary objective has been to promote, support, and foster scientific endeavor and technical innovation in an ethical, humane, and sustainable manner for the benefit of the people of Sri Lanka. This responsibility has been fulfilled by our members as individuals and as an association throughout the 80 years of its existence. Our strength has been the diversity of disciplines, specialities, and points of view that we represent, and our long association and activities that we conduct with the next generation. These strengths are critical to any national endeavor towards addressing the current societal and economic ills that have befallen us as a nation. Science and technology have been, as shown by the new president, general president, have been and will remain central in the fight against poverty and in stimulating the economic growth of a country. Professor Videos described how science and scientists the world over have contributed over the years to what we are today. There is no doubt that science holds the best prospects for continued progress, especially in health, education, agriculture, food security, water, energy, and many environmental concerns that we face today. It's therefore relevant to briefly look at the position of science and technology in our country. Sri Lanka's first National Science and Technology Policy Statement was made in 1978. Thereafter, in 1991, an expanded National Science and Technology Policy was drafted by a Presidential Task Force on Science and Technology Development. 3 years later, in 1994, saw the formulation of a new Science and Technology Development Act, which resulted in a new body, the National Science and Technology Commission, NASTEC, which had policy advisory functions vested in it. After 20 years of these policies and acts being in place, in 1998, Dr. R.O.B. Vijayasekara, a past general president of Slaas and a close relative of the current president, had this to say, I quote, "Planners in the post-independence period largely ignored the value and potential of science despite continuous attempts by the country's scientists to introduce planned and directed policies for science and technological development and its utilization in national development. Scientific institutions were organized and run at more subsistence levels. Government inputs were inadequate, and the scientific community was depleted and marginalized," end of quote. In response to the shortcomings in the existing policy identified Dr. Vijayasekara and many others, NASTEC developed a new National Science and Technology Policy in 2008.
This was formulated through an extensive process of consultation and aimed towards the application of science and technology for national development. To support this effort further, in 2016, the National Research Council of Sri Lanka was established for the purpose of facilitating research that will contribute to national development, to the national development agenda. However, in 2018, the government felt the need for a new policy with an emphasis on scientific research, innovation, and commercialization. Despite these attempts to focus on national development through science and technology, it appears that the assessment made by Dr. R.O.B. Wijesekara 25 years ago still remains valid. The state commitment for scientific research is still inadequate, while countries in the region have taken giant steps ahead. According to World Bank data for 2020-21, Sri Lanka has a very meager investment into research and development, amounting to only 0.12% of the GDP. On average, this is 20% of what is spent by countries with a similar income and by other South Asian countries. This is reflected in the number of patents registered per year. Scientists have the responsibility of creating and applying new knowledge, as well as communicating new knowledge with clarity, not only to their scientific colleagues, but also to policymakers. They also have a responsibility to counteract the merchants of doubt, especially when there are competing commercial and financial interests. The difficulties encountered in instituting public health actions to mitigate the effects of active and passive smoking on lung cancer, as well as the debate on global warming and climate change, amply illustrates the power of these doubters. That is why it is important that scientists walk that extra mile to ensure that the results of their scientific endeavors translate into correct decision-making at policy level. I believe that organizations such as Slaas have an important role in ensuring that results of research are incorporated into public policy decisions. It is said that the world is fast moving into the fourth industrial revolution, that is from the digital age to the age of artificial intelligence. However, I wonder whether Sri Lanka was able to ride the wave of the third revolution to the same extent as our neighbors in respect to the third industrial revolution. We had a mixed bag of success. We had an early start with considerable success in the areas of connectivity and digital infrastructure and e-governance policies. Early ambition with the East Sri Lanka plan led to significant progress in online service delivery and global recognition. However, challenges such as implementation gaps, corruption concerns, politicization of institutions, and political instability have hampered its full impact. Success would depend on overcoming past roadblocks and ensuring equitable access through transformative digital governance for all Sri Lankans. Today, a revised policy aims to revitalize the vision, focusing on citizen centricity, technical innovation, and bridging the digital divide in Sri Lanka. This requires upskilling our people in technology, automation, and artificial intelligence are redefined. Our people in technology, automation and artificial intelligence are redefining the job market, demanding a workforce that is fluent in digital languages, adept at data analysis, and equipped with critical thinking skills. In the long run, this may need a sea change in the process of education in the country. In the short run, By investing in robust training programs, embracing continuous learning, and cultivating adaptable mindsets, we may be able to empower Sri Lankans to navigate this transformative era. As a scientific organization covering all scientific fields, we have a significant role to play. It is said that AI will be able to replicate a human brain by 2055. On a personal note, I sincerely hope that it comes sooner, because I, for one, would love to have a humanoid chatbot with whom I could share an intelligent conversation on any topic of my choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for those insightful words. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to announce Professor Sumedha Jayanthi will propose the toast later tonight, and however tempting it may be, please do save those drinks of yours. So, before we conclude the formal proceedings for this evening, I had the pleasure of inviting Professor Udeni Navagamua, General President-elect of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you with great joy and gratitude as I extend our heartfelt thanks for the successful completion of the induction ceremony of Professor Ramani Wijesekara as the General President of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. First and foremost, our sincere gratitude goes to our esteemed Chief Guest, Dr. Lalani Rajapaksha, past General President of Slaas, for graciously accepting our invitation. A special acknowledgement is also extended to Dr. Sujata Hevage, former head of the Department of Chemistry at the University of Colombo, for her presence as the guest of honor at this momentous occasion. We express our deep appreciation to the Vice Chancellors, the Deans, and the entire academic and administrative staff for their unwavering support and participation. Our heartfelt thanks go to the outgoing General President, Professor Ranjit Senaratne, for his warm welcome speech, and our General Secretaries, Dr. Russell De Silva and Dr. Lakmal Veeravarna, as well as the Treasurer, Professor Dilrukshi Vijayaratne, for their dedicated coordination of this event. Gratitude is also extended to the numerous individuals whose names may not be mentioned individually but played crucial roles in organizing the induction ceremony. The presence of the past General Presidents added a special touch to this event, and we thank all our distinguished invitees, past and present Council members, and Slaas members for gracing us with their presence today. A heartfelt acknowledgement is dedicated to the diligent Slaas office staff for their tireless efforts behind the scenes. Our gratitude extends to the dedicated Golf Face Hotel staff for their invaluable support throughout the event. We would also like to express our appreciation to FOSMedia for their outstanding photography, recording, and the media personnel who skillfully captured and shared every moment of this memorable occasion. Your collective contributions have undoubtedly enhanced the overall experience, and we are sincerely thankful for your involvement. A heartfelt thank you to Professor Teshini Pereira for your exceptional role as our Master of Ceremonies today. Finally, our deepest gratitude to each one of you for joining us on this significant day. Your presence has added immense value to this ceremony, making it truly memorable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Navagamu. The ceremonial induction is now formally concluded. So let us change gears and get ready to rejoice. And to help us to do that, I now call upon a former General President of Slaas, Professor FOSMedia.Videos, to propose the toast in honor of the new leadership of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science.
Chief Guest, Dr. Lalini Rajapaksha, Guest of Honor, Dr. Sujata Hevake, Immediate Past General President, Professor Ranjit Senaratna, General President-elect, Professor Udeni Navagamua, General Secretaries, Past General Presidents, members of the Council, members of the Vijayasekara family, distinguished invitees. Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science, Slaas, has just finished its activities under one dynamic leadership, and the responsibility has been handed over to another committed leadership today with the induction of Professor Ramani Vijayasekara as its General President for 2024. If I may start with a quote from Marie Curie, quote, "Be less curious about people and more curious about ideas." I can easily put Professor Vijayasekara into this category of people, knowing her for more than 40 years from the times as an undergraduate of the Faculty of Science in the University of Colombo and in the same batch. By the way, we had never spoken to each other during our undergraduate times. And after completing our postgraduate degrees from different parts of the world, we returned to Sri Lanka. I came to physics and she returned to chemistry. So I went to chemistry department once and spoke to her. She spoke to me very politely, but I realized that she was not aware that I was one of her batchmates. So she has not been too curious about even about her batchmates. However, since joining the faculty as academics, we have been able to work together in a number of committees and projects in the University of Colombo and Slaas for many years. Once the idea was given, irrespective of the team she was in, she has managed to implement the idea with success until the final outcome was reached. Many of us who have worked in Slaas over the years with her are quite familiar with her style: honesty, commitment, integrity, and work ethics. So I am confident that Slaas membership will rally around Professor Vijayasekara to support and assist her to implement her ideas this year in order to take Slaas to greater heights. So, ladies and gentlemen, I request you to rise to toast Slaas and its new General President. May Slaas grow from strength to strength under Professor Ramani Vijayasekara's leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jayanetti, for that delightful toast. I hope you will enjoy the rest of the evening along with the scrumptious dinner served. Thank you very much indeed for your presence this evening. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.